Alright, hello MUCT 113L class. This is the remote lecture for week 6. Okay, let's get right to it and go straight into the Berkowitz books. And continue on with the stuff that we were introducing on Friday. We talked on Friday about syncopation a little bit, so we're going to do a couple more syncopated exercises before going on with some other stuff. So go to the Berkowitz book, please. Page 51. Page 51. Berkowitz, page 51. We will begin at the top of the page at number 219, where it says lively. All right, so let's give this one a try. Key of A major. Do. All right, this is a syncopation at a lower level of subdivision, down in the subdivision, not at the beat, but within the beat. Okay, this is actually going to sound a lot like ragtime music. Not too fast. 1 E and 2 E and do, 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 re, mi, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Sol, 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 la, ti, re, do, ti, la, sol. Do, 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 ti, sol, mi, la, 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 sol. Fa, sol, la, sol, mi, do, mi, re, do, Excuse me, I meant to say mi, do, re, do. And that one, of course, is not syncopated, though it is, does have the faster notes at the beginning, which is a kind of syncopation using the broader terms that we talked about. Let's go to number 220. Number 220, we are in the alto clef. You will notice that we are in the key of B natural minor. There are no accidentals here. This is B natural minor. Do. Do it high. You can do it lower if you need to. Do, do. Okay. Watch the articulations here as well as the dynamics. 1 and 2 and 1 E and 2 and do, me, do, re, fa, re, sol, fa, me, re, re, do, sol, me, re, le, fa, sol, fa, me, re, do, me, re, do. And keep in keep in mind 3 and 4 bars from the end, just outlines of 1 chord and the diminished 2 chord. Do, re, le. That is a diminished 5th. All right, let's go to something back into something major. This is not necessarily working on syncopations at this point, but on 221 we're doing all different kinds of rhythms, all different kinds of intervals that we've been working on. Key of D flat major. Starting on sol, do, sol, do. Okay, very important that you subdivide here, because in the first complete measure the arpeggiated motion moves right off of the beat, so you have to think sol, sol, do, sol, mi, sol, do. If you wait too long on that tie, you'll be late. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2. Sol, do, sol, mi, sol, do, re, mi, fa, re, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol. Sol, do, sol, mi, sol, do, re, mi, fa, re, do, ti, la, sol, la, do, sol, fa, do, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Excuse me. All right, 222, going on. This one has a lot of sequential motion, a lot of sequences here. The first two figures are sequences, the next two figures after that are also in sequence, and the last couple of figures in the piece. So this is almost all sequential stuff, so let's watch out for that. This is, again, alto clef, but we are in the key of E flat major. Sordo. I'm going to take it low this time. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. Sol, do, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, re. Sol, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, mi, sol, la, la, re, mi, fa, sol, sol, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, ti, la, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, la, re, mi, fa, sol, sol, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, sol, sol, do. Okay, that's kind of a nice one. I like that with all of the patterned repetitions there and things like that. The sequences are very nice. 223, back in it, still an alto clef. This case in the key of E major. Now notice in this example, there are a lot of ties across the bar line here, which does obscure, serves to obscure the feeling of the beat. Okay, as long as you count, you will be okay. It says to count this in 1, but let's count it in 3 so we can feel the ebb and flow of those ties across the bar line. Okay, do, mi, sol. We start right in the tonic triad. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Do, mi, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, do, sol, re, ti, do, la, ti, re, sol, fa, re, sol, re, fa, mi, do, sol, do, mi, re, sol, re, sol, la, ti, do. And what that does, if you analyze this piece really quick from the beginning, you'll see that if you were to kind of close your eyes and just listen to it, the way that things are connected together are really, instead of by 3s, as we would expect something in 3/8 time, you'd have a set of 3, a set of 3, a set of 3. It really is sets of 2. Okay, so you have 2 notes and then 2 notes tied together, then 2 notes tied together again, etc. If you look at the bottom line, where the forte is 2 notes, then 2 notes tied, 2 notes, 2 notes, 2 notes tied, 2 notes. So it gives you more of a feeling almost of 2/8 rather than 3/8, or something in 2 rather than in 3. Okay, that's a common technique, and a little bit kind of a syncopation, where it's borrowing the groove from somewhere else. Let's sing a little bit more here. Turn the page over to page 52. And yeah, we'll do like maybe 3 more of these. Okay, 6/8 time, number 224 in 6/8 time, key of G major. Now, you'll notice in the third complete measure that there is a grace note there. For now, ignore it. We'll talk about it in just a moment. Sol is where we will, so just ignore that grace note. 1 and 2 and 1 E and 2 and sol, sol, mi, mi, fa, fa, re, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, sol, mi, fa, fa, re, re, mi, re, do, ti, la, sol, 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 do. Okay, fairly simple. Fairly simple. Let's talk about that grace note. Let's talk about that grace note that you see in the second beat of the third measure. So what to do with this? There are a couple of clues. That we have a couple of options that are relatively common. It kind of depends on, I guess, on the groove or the feel you're wanting, or if you're thinking more classical or more romantic or more folk tune. So there's a couple of major ways that you can do this. One is you can treat the grace note, excuse me, which is an A, not a B. You can treat the grace note before the beat as fast as you can. So what you would do, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re. So you would basically keep all of the rest of the beats intact. So mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do similar to that, while treating the grace note as fast as you possibly can, but on the beat. Mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re. And let me subdivide so that's more obvious. Ready, and mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re. I actually think that's the least likely, but it is a possibility. And the other possibility, and it's hinted at slightly by the fact that this note has a slash in it. And remember from our discussion of measured tremolo, if you have something like this, it means you take the note value that has this many number of flags, an eighth note in this case, and you stuff as many of those into this half note as fits. In this case it is 4. And remember when we had something like this, where you add the flags, and so this was equal to this figure? It's a little bit like this. As strange as it seems, this is kind of equal. It's kind of telling you that there's something like this going on as it relates to this. So some ways that this is done is this grace note indicates that these two notes should be equal on the beat, like this. So it would be mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re. If you play some Mozart, some Haydn, a little bit of Beethoven, you'll often see grace notes done this way. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an aside. If you see one of those, you do have options, but that's what they are for. All right, let's go on. We'll do two more. Number 225. Notice here they say that the next 4 exercises practice intervals of a sixth. And it's true, they are going to feature intervals of a sixth, but they are not going to exclusively use intervals of a sixth. You may notice there are some sevenths here and other intervals as well. So let's give this one a try in the key of F major. Beginning on Sol, going to Mi, which is a good major sixth. 1 and 2 and 3. Sol, mi, sol, fa, re, sol, fa, la, sol, mi, sol, la, fa, la, ti, sol, mi, do, la, la, la. Sol, fa, mi, sol, mi, re, fa, ti, do, mi, I didn't tell you about that fermata there, but you should be able to read that as well. And actually, we won't go to 226. Let's just stop right there. We'll do that on next Friday, although I know a lot of you orchestra members are going to be gone, and you're going to miss actually our introduction to chromatic solfege that we're going to do on page 53. But we'll do the best we can. Go to your Kazez book, please, and let's introduce briefly a new concept. Not an entirely new concept, but a relatively new concept by going to page 75. Kazez 75. Okay, well, it's actually on the bottom of page 74 that they explain hypermeter. Hypermeter. And what hypermeter is it's kind of the difference sometimes between what the time signature is telling you and what you're hearing. Okay, so if you look on page 75, and here is an example from one of Mozart's piano concertos. This is G major piano concerto. And the printed notation gives it in 4/4 time. You know, 1, 2, 3, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, yum, bum, yum, bum, ba-da-da-da-dum. And so in 4/4 time, but when we remember what the standards of kind of emphasis in 4/4 time, we have kind of an emphasis on the downbeat and a little bit more on 3, and a little bit on 3 as well. And if we do that, this just doesn't make sense as much to have those emphases. It'll be da-da-dun, dun, da-dun, dun, 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 da-da-da-dun. Kind of seems like we're just beating it with a stick. And so what you're really hearing is something that's a little bit longer. It's a longer phrase. It's stretched a little. You're not having so much emphasis on all of those beats. You're hearing something more like this. And as you can see on page 75, that way, more of the emphasis on that first D, and then a slight emphasis on the first A later makes you feel like you're in 4/1, or in a set of 4/4/4 bars, rather than just one at a time. Okay, otherwise, it just sounds kind of like a marching band playing it. Okay, they give. If you look at the bottom of the page, they give you some more examples of trying different meters with Yankee Doodle. Okay, and if you try Yankee Doodle in 2/4. Dun 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 dun. Good enough for like an elementary school patriotic play, but not very musical. So if you double the length, half note beat, it'll be like this. Dun 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 ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum 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 bum. That's actually a lot better. It's a lot better, but you can even try the whole note, where you're stretching it even further. Bum 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 ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum 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 bum. That might be more musical still. So hypermeter is that sense that the meter they give you is not the meter that it feels. So look at number 76, page 76 rather, page 76, turning the page, number 148. And here's a 2/4 time. Here's a 2/4 time. And they're telling you it's really not 2/4 time. It's not T, 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 T. They're telling you it's hypermeter. It really feels like 4/4 time or 2/2 time, double the length that they're giving you. So try that. It's T, 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 etc. So let's give that a try. Let's give that a try. It's not, you're not counting it in any different way. You're feeling it differently. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. T, 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 T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T. Good. All right. And when we return for Friday's class, we will continue the rest of that in hypermeter with these extra examples. But actually, turn over to page 78. We'll do the classroom examples, the two-part exercises, for the hands, also the ensemble exercises. But on page 78, there's one review exercise, number 154, that I would like to do so we can actually finish this chapter out and go on to the next chapter. Notice this comes in on beat 3, and it's got quite a lot of Scottish snaps, it's got double dotted rhythms, it's got forte pianos crescendoing to fortes, it's got some measured tremolo in there, it's got in the third measure from the end the little percentage sign referring to a repetition. There's a lot in here. There's a lot in here. So try this with me. I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and let's give it a try. 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and T T T T T T T T Ticky T T T Ticky T T T T T T T Ticky T Ticky Ticky T Ticky T Ticky T Ticky 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 T T T T T T T T T T T T T Ticky T T Ticky Ticky T Ticky T T T T T T T T Ticky 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 T. Off. Good. Now put those books away and let's do some harmonic dictation. This will be your attendance. This will represent your attendance for next week for this midweek remote lecture. And we're going to do a couple of, we're going to do some old stuff, some new stuff. We're going to do 4, as we normally do, 4 exercises. And the first will be harmonic dictation using pre-harmonic dictation 2 standards. 7 chords this time. We've typically done 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, a set of 7 chords, and then we're going to move our work in 7th chords into pre-harmonic dictation 1. Pre-harmonic dictation 1, in that we will use the chord symbols this time, the Roman numeral chord symbols instead of just the indications of chord quality. Okay, but let's start with this one first. This is using triads only, those encountered in the minor mode with all inversions. Okay, 7 chords, 7 chords. Here we go. I'll play it 2 times through. Ready, and... Okay, one more time. Ready, and... Alright, we're just doing one of those, and for number 2, just 5 chords, and this is pre-Harmonic Dictation 1. 5 chords only. Remember, these are all pre-Harmonic Dictation 1 uses root position chords only, and we're including sevenths, root position triads, root position seventh chords. So just use the proper notation of the bass line and put a 7 next to the chord. Once you find out what the root of the chord is, what the quality of the chord is, the 7 will help you. All right, so let's do a set of these. 5 chords, beginning with Do in the bass and 1 in the space beneath. Here we go. Ready, and. One more time. Ready, and. Sorry, I actually forgot to notate that that was number 2. Now number 3. Another set of 5 chords, including root position triads as well as root position 7th chords. All right, here we go. Ready, and. Again, ready, and. All right. And number 4 is another set of 5 chords starting on 1. Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it starts on in this case. You'll see. It does start on Do in the bass, which should give you a big hint since these are all in root position, but it is left to you to determine exactly what. All right. 5 chords. I will play it 2 times. Here we go. Ready, and. Again. Ready, and. All right, that's it for this remote lecture. I will see many of you on Friday. For the rest of you who are going on the orchestra tour, good luck and have a good time.